Well, it doesn't have to be like that. Just remember what it's all about. Don't stress about, the florist hasn't responded in 3 hours. It's all going to be fine. And advice I always give my clients is to a couple times throughout the evening, like find each other and just like have a quiet moment to just like watch everything, because the day goes by in an instant. It's so fast. And so those moments where you like mindfully stop and take a look at all of your nearest and dearest, drunk on the dance floor or whatever is happening, that's what you're going to remember about your wedding. And I've had a lot of clients come back and thank me for that. Like it was really meaningful for them. And also with that, a lot of couples skip video, which ends up being their biggest regret after the wedding. It's usually like a budget thing at the last minute. They're like, we don't need it. And they wish they, because you're never going to hear those toasts all over again. You're never going to like see your first married kiss or, whatever is most important to you. And to have that footage is truly priceless. My parents found their wedding video a couple of years ago, and it's like an old Super 8. There's no sound, but like so cool to be able to see that as their kids. So there also has to be a little forward thinking. Our kids watched our wedding a couple of years ago, and they like loved it. So it's so funny. Like I never thought about that when I was married. So definitely get video. And then as far as marriage advice, so I actually met my husband at a wedding. I was the planner and he was a guest.
No way.
Yeah. So we've been married around 13 years now. And I'm trying to think of marriage advice. We have a friend, like a parent friend, who told us never keep score, which was really good advice. I don't know if I agree with it with kids necessarily. But it served us well until then.
Right. Until the score was so off and the points were so much higher on one side.
Until one was sleeping very well at night and the other one was not.
Exactly.
But I think that's good advice for just starting. And, it is important to not keep score. Like you always do things for the other person to make sure they're happy. And of course, happy wife, happy life is just great advice all around.
For the people that are in the back. For the people that missed it, happy wife, happy life, y'all. Well, that's amazing. And I think you're right. I think people always say, don't keep score. It's not a transaction. You do it because you love them. One of my favorite pieces of advice was, if it takes 5 minutes to do, just do it. If it's going to take longer than 5 minutes, bring it up, but bring it up subtly and in a nice way at the right time with all these variables. But otherwise, just do it instead of saying, hey, like if, for example, the dirty dish, it's right next to the dishwasher. It's right next to the sink, but it is right there. And so instead of like complaining and having the 10-minute fight about the dishes, just do the dish because that's what you do. I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. So we're gonna be great communicators in our marriage, but for everybody that's engaged and we're super excited, we're about to marry the love of our life. We also have some butterflies like about the future. What are some things that people can do to be excited about being married? Yes, it's a big commitment, and yes, we're about to become one, and we're going to buy houses together and have babies together and all the things. But what's something that you could say to someone that's nervous about spending the rest of their life with someone?
I mean, premarital counseling, I recommend it for everybody, whether everything's perfect, whether it's not. It's just such a great foundation for your marriage. There are so many couples. I know some personally and just past clients that like, they didn't discuss if they want kids, and like the most basic conversations that you be having before you're married, like it'll be fine. We'll figure it out later. It's not going to be fine. And that's going to be a big problem in your marriage if you guys are on different ends of the spectrum on this. So I think seeing a counselor, if you're religious, depending on the church you go to, many churches offer something like that. Like Catholic weddings have required Catholic retreats. And so that's one way you could tap into it. You could ask friends if they've seen a counselor that they really loved. And yeah, I think the stigma of seeing a therapist is slowly going by the wayside. Many years ago, like you wouldn't tell people you were going to see a counselor. It was like so cliche, like you wouldn't meet somebody online and tell people. And
Right.
obviously both are a totally different attitude, but a personal recommendation is gold, no matter what it is you're looking for. But I think therapy, specifically a personal recommendation, can go a long way. So finding somebody that way, or even we like as well, all kinds of recommendations. So ask your planner, ask your friends. It could be 20 sessions. It could be just a couple to really like hash some things out, talk about things, and really start on the right foot.
I love it. I think that's really solid advice. Have you seen a lot of prenups in the past 20 years or so that you've been doing this?
Yeah, so that's typically not something that we are actively involved with. Our clients will just kind of tell us where they are in the process, but we have couples like in the prenup process and nailing down all the details. I actually had one wedding, this was probably 15 years ago, and they were in my office. It was 2 weeks before the wedding, and we're like trying to nail down details. And there's clearly like some tension, like something has happened. I'm just trying to get through the meeting.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, anything else you guys have on your mind that I can help you with, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, if you can get her to sign the prenup or something like that. And then she lost it, and she took off her ring and she threw it across the room, bounced off the wall. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to step out for a second.
I think y'all need a minute.
Was like the most explosive thing that's ever happened in the office. But we do hear of couples kind of negotiating back and forth. It's usually fine, but it's a process. So we tend to stay out of that, but I absolutely think it's a good idea.
Yeah, interesting. I always wondered, if money's involved, and I'm sure event planning and the whole entire wedding day, all of it is a big expenditure. I always wondered if it ever affected or came down on the people that were actually involved with the wedding planning. So it's interesting to know that you have been on the fringe of a few prenups, and you have seen a couple go down. But yeah, that's interesting.
We work with a lot of luxury, like high-end clients, bigger budgets, where families have like generational money. So that's where we see it quite a bit. Like if the family has money, or somebody in the sold a business or something and is super wealthy, we don't really ask, to be honest, but we're so close that they'll typically just tell us about it. So it's not rare to hear about a prenup at all.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I know most, well-off families, or especially the ones that have inheritance or anything, I'm sure that all comes to a head with a wedding. So it is interesting to hear that you've actually, been on the outskirts of it or been a part of it. That's so interesting. So as a wedding industry veteran, who's seen it all, and you've been through a relationship yourself, you've had kids, what's one thing you would have told yourself 20 years ago when you were starting Bridal Bliss, before you went into this wedding industry? What's one thing you would sit younger Nora down and say?
Travel the world. I wish I would have gotten my MBA. I never got it. I mean, you never say never. I still could, but pre-kids is like such an appreciate how different your life is before kids and after kids. So I wish I would have traveled more, even just by myself. Like right now, I would be fine traveling somewhere by myself if my husband wasn't able to come for some reason. Like that actually sounds kind of dreamy.
I
know. But like before kids or before meeting my husband, like I never would have flown somewhere by myself just to have a trip. Like I'd always go with friends or something. And so you're trying to manage schedules, and everyone's has newer jobs. They're young in their company, so it's hard. Like whatever you can do, travel as much as you can. Gosh, and like education is so important. But after being in school for so long, it was like the last thing I wanted to do was go back.
Right. We just want to break off the chains and start running anywhere in any direction. I hear you loud and clear.
Totally.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. I had a blast talking to you. Where can people find more about Rock, Paper, Coin and Bridal Bliss, and how to get in touch with you so that they can have the most seamless, stressful day when it comes to their wedding day?
I would love to hear from anyone. My websites would be rockpapercoin.com and bridalbliss.com. And then we are also on Instagram and all social media. So it's just at rockpapercoin or at bridalblissNW for Northwest.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Nora. You guys heard it first. Hit her up on all of her social, all of her websites, and she's so excited to hear from you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.